All right, episode 102. Today we talk about how many questions you should be taking and you need to take in order to pass the PMP exam. All right, so get into it. What do you think right now? This is active engagement time. You and I talking right now. What do you think? Is it 100, 1,000? Why don't we play this game where you stop me when you think we're there, right? Okay, so 100, you think it's more? 500? You have to take at least 500 questions? Maybe it's up to 1,000. Are you in the 1,000 camp? Or do you say, Scott, keep it going, Price is Right style, keep it going higher? 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. If you only took 5,000 questions, could you guarantee yourself passing? Is that what the thing is? Is that the magic number? Or maybe it's 4,563 and a half questions. Maybe it's somewhere in there, right? Now, when you think through it, you're like, I don't know. I'm sure some of you have opinions. You probably have perspectives, but in reality, I have an answer. I'm not going to give it to you right now, but I'll give it to you in a second. I want to frame it a different way because a lot of times when we ask questions, they seem valid. This question's fairly valid. I get it every single day of my life. And when we look at it from a PMP perspective, we start to try to answer the question. That's the thing about, I think, education. They teach us to answer questions that were asked, right? Now, a better way to start off a lot of times is to question the question. And one way to do that is to look at it from a different perspective, okay? So I want to take this question, how many blanks should you take? I want to take it with the weightlifting, working out example. Now, if I said exactly how many, let's just say curls you have to do to get really great, strong arms. Now, would you think there's an exact answer to that question? They said like, oh, it's going to take 4,027 curls. And you'd say, okay. The question follow-up, if you went in there and just grabbed weights, you just fire away, and would you get there? Would the level of weight matter? If it's a baby weight versus a ginormous weight, would the method by which you did it matter? You know, if you're just flailing away trying to hit this random number, or if you're being very disciplined and pulling it forward and putting it down and doing all these things, would that make a difference? So when you look at it from the weightlifting example, you're going to blow your elbow off if you're taking this giant weight and you're just hammering away at it. Obviously, the context matters. In the weightlifting example, it's obvious. The type of weight you used, if you're a small woman or a giant man, would make a difference. The technique you use, the speed, all those things make a difference. So if it worked in that neighborhood for the question and made you question the question, why wouldn't you take the same approach with PMP questions? Let's do it again. Exactly how many PMP practice questions should you take? So if I came out and said 4,615 and a quarter this time, you'd say, but Scott, context matters, right? Just like weightlifting. And so I'd say, yeah, let's get into this context. So the context here, what are the different angles? Does the speed at which you take it matter? Yeah, it does. Does the process matter that you solve problems with? Yeah, it does. Does the type and quality of questions that you actually solve matter? Yeah, it does. So as we think through all those levels, it's a bad question. But the internet machine is full of bad questions, so that's the way it goes, but we can come from a different angle and be smarter about it. Cool. So when we talk about it, there's three things that we want to think about. First of all, the quality of the questions. Every question in the world isn't organized the same way. It isn't worth the same amount. Now, we want situational questions. I go on the internet. I don't really do this anymore, but I get people bringing me questions. They say, I get all these right. And they're like, what ITO is the seventh ITO in this process? That question is not worth the time of day. We want hard situational questions that make us think about things. That question our understanding of why, our fundamentals, okay? So the first thing is quality of the questions. Second thing is how we go through it as our process, all right? The process matters, whether lifting weights or answering questions. A majority of you, if you're not going through our process, are missing a lot of questions because your process is bad, real bad. Now, see if this fits a little bit. When you get to the bottom, you don't have an answer that boom pops in your face. You're a little bit confused on some of them. You go through quickly and you have to reread the question from the top. If these are things that you've had, then your process is poor. And let's just face it, we can get better. So we have a distinct process we follow through, that everybody follows through the same process that we've built, trial by fire, that really helps everyone get to the answer that they needed. So we've got to think about the quality of questions, get good stuff in front of us. If we go to the weightlifting example, what are we eating? Junk food or, lean, healthy meats and all these other things? That matters. That fuels our understanding or our ability to understand. That's number one. Number two was the process. Are we being just trying to get through the speed to say, I want to take 4,000 questions? That's not the way to do it, okay? We want to disciplinedly follow a process. Boom, 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 boom. And we want to follow that every single time and use it to understand what they're asking, what the problem is in the question, because there's always a conflict in the question. And then we methodically go through each and give each answer its due. What is A? Does it work to solve the problem in the question? All right. Maybe, maybe not. Either throw it away, hang it around, but, got to go to the next one. Do the same thing with B, all the way to D. Once we get down there, we'll have dropped out one or two, right? We'll be down to two. And a lot of you say, yeah, Scott, I'm already down to two. Get it? How well are you doing on those last two? Because that is the crux of our problem here. That's what we got to get through. It's not the hardest thing in the world to get down to two. A lot of people can do it, but it's very difficult to get down to pick which of the two is the best one. And if we don't follow that process that I talked about, that'll help inform us, help us understand what they're asking, understand the perspective, where we are, etc., we're not going to be able to pick the right one better than random. And that's not the game you want to be in, okay? Now, the process makes a difference. Now, the third thing that really matters with these questions is slowing down and using the questions to draw learning out. I don't care if you got the question right or wrong while we're practicing. On the exam, we're getting them all right, right? But while we practice, what I prefer and what I really am looking for is process and the way in which you talk through things, the methods by which you analyze the questions. That is what's really important, because you're never going to see the same question on the exam, the exact wording, or, I recognize it, I'll get it. But when you practice, a lot of you out there are getting high scores that are artificial. Why? Because you recognize the question. Of course you got it right. You know the answer, but do you understand it deeply? Can you teach it? Can you see where the holes are, where the opportunities are? Why B is better than C for these factual reasons, and what would make it flip? What change of term or perspective would make the other answer better? That's like second, third, fourth level thinking. That's how I know when my students have it. When they could go, B's the one I think is right because of these factual reasons. C is close, but there's a couple little things that I don't think are correct. And if we switch this and that, B would be better than C and vice versa. And these other support in different ways. And if I wrote this question, if they get real good and they become one of my coaches later, if they get real good, they say, if I wrote this question, I would write an answer related to this. And that would make it more difficult, or that would jump out. When you're doing that, you are squeezing every learning you can out of these questions. And when we come back at the end of the day and say how many questions you should take, you should say enough to help me learn a process and get strong in my logic. That's how many you should take. As many as it takes to get strong process, strong logic. That's what you want to do. Now, how many does that usually take? Not thousands, not hundreds. I would say I'll take the bet. I'll take the gamble that I'm laying out here. I can get pretty much anybody through the PMP exam, and we only use 200 questions. Yeah, no bullshit. I think I can do that. I'm willing to take the bet. If you're out there and you say, I haven't looked at any questions or I've looked at a lot, whatever, and I only want to study 200 questions with you, and I think, I think, I want to test you to see if you can make me pass. Yeah, we're going to get every drop out of those 200 questions. I like that. We just made that up right now. I like that thing. I want to take, who's out there that wants to take the 200 question challenge? The 7-day accelerator is already pretty awesome. We can take it up a notch where really what we're doing in the 7-day accelerator is we're slowing down so that we can speed up and increase our score. We are spending time analyzing the questions. Me and my coaches at different sessions you can get with me or Sandy or the individual coaches we have every day of the week. And we're asking you, talk me through it. Analyze it. What jumps out to you? Where are you in the processes groups? You see how I'm not telling, I'm asking so that you can pull the information from yourself? That's the key to learning here. Socratic, that's what they call it, Socratic. Socrates, I guess the dude way back in the day did it that way. It's not that I know it or the coaches know it, it's that you know it. It's inside of you. We're going to pull it out. And by you going, I don't know what the real problem is. I don't know what they really want. I don't know whatever it is. Your freedom, your salvation, your learning comes through I don't know. Humbly saying I don't know and then moving forward. Because we go, okay, now let's learn. Now let's learn. And so you want to get 1 or 2 or 3, as many as you can, learnings from the question. So as I'm thinking, the way that you should go through the question is, have I squeezed every single opportunity that I can out of every single question? Because when you see it again, you already you already have a mind for it. No. When you see it the first time, how can I slow down? How can I get as much learning about the question, about the content, and about myself and my understanding and wrap around it that I possibly can? If we can do that, then you're a machine. A question solving machine. All right. And so how many questions should you take? Wipe that off. It should say, how should you take questions? That's a better thing. And so now, what can we do? You and me right now, what can you do? Either you're watching me on YouTube or wherever this is in the world or on the podcast, whatever. What can you do right now? You can stop taking a lot of questions. There you go. And then you can take small quizzes and you can slow yourself down. We'll get to speed in time. Hey, you got a minute 12. That's a secondary thing. Let's learn to walk first. There's no shame in this. Let's take 5-10 questions. Let's ask ourselves, what are they looking for? Read the last line. They're looking for what's next. They're looking for what we messed up in the past. Looking for right now. Cool. Read the question. What are the key points? Can I pick them out? Write them down. I think these are what's important. And when you get down to the end and you solve it, you go, wow, a lot of those things I pulled out weren't important. That's fun. That's learning. And so when we go through the question, this is what I think is important. This is what I think the problem is. Not like, what would you do next or what would you do in the past? No, what is the situation demand? What is the problem? What's the crux of the issue here? Now, if you can do that, you're on your way. To get the most out of this, I'd stop right then and I'd say, what would I think the right answer is? That's good, man. If you can do that, you're going to be off base, left, right, and center. I think the answer should be this. Write it down. Heck, write it down. Then go A, read it. Does it meet? Does it not meet? Does it solve that problem or not? Kill it or keep it around. Then methodically go through. If you do that, that process when you start out, it's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes. Who cares? You're getting value out of it. You're learning. You're drenching yourself in this. So go do that. Spend a day doing that. Not the full day. Spend a couple hours that you're going to study. What you're going to get is what's on your paper. You're going to be left with actionable things you can do to learn. And isn't that great? Right? Isn't that great that you can go there and you can take those topics and you can dive down and you can shore them up so that the next time, the next 5, 10, 15 questions you take, you got that area of discipline nailed down. And that's what we want. So you know exactly how many questions you have to take now. You know exactly how you should go through it. And if you want help from me and you want to go through questions with me and my coaches and stuff like that, all you got to do is email me, because believe me, this is what we love to do. This is the main differentiator, other than breaking the PMP and making it super simple. Going through questions and working with you is what we do better than anybody in the world. Okay? And that's what we're passionate about, obviously. So email me, scott@pmmasterprep.com. We'll get you in one of these calls. We'll see what your brain's looking like. We'll walk you through it. You're going to get better. Let's do this thing, all right? So shoot me an email, scott@pmmasterprep.com. Talk to you soon. Do the questions the right way. We'll get there. See ya. Bye.